Hey guys, number one Marmaduke fan here, looking at Sonic Select Book 5. The Sonic Select books are usually a collection of one story arc or several issues that all share a similar theme. So the theme of Sonic Select Book 5 is kids. So it's basically the characters from the Sad AM universe, but as younger people. And for some reason, Tails has these massive bushy eyebrows. And I have no idea why. It wouldn't be an Archie comic if there wasn't just one weird thing that's there for no explicable reason. But this is actually my favorite of the Sonic Select books so far. One of the reasons I wanted to read the Archie Sonic comics is how much I love the Sad AM show, and kind of wanting to know more about what happened. Now, what I've learned by reading the Archie Sonic comics is if you're wanting to get if you're dreaming that there would be a season 3 of that show, that's not what you're going to get. It's a little bit more of its own weird thing. It's a little bit more like Archie wanted to take Sonic and put him into weird Marvel DC Crisis on Infinite Earths style weird superhero adventures. But Sonic Kids, this book 5, it focuses a lot more on the core group of freedom fighters, and I actually think that's where 90s Sonic was at his best. So I've got a neat little Jordan Peterson, hey, Lobster's Chaos, idea that came from my time as an art tutor. So let me get that out of the way first, because I think it'll kind of give you a framework for just like a cool way to think about Sonic. So when I was a tutor, I would teach kids at art workshops like how to make comics and how to write a journal and things like that. So that meant I would draw a lot with kids, and they would like tell me their crazy, cartoony story ideas. And one of the things I learned while doing that is kids seem to naturally favor stories with a strong good guys and bad guys dichotomy. And little kids, because they're young, I think that they think of good guys and bad guys differently than adults do. So for a kid, good guys and bad guys are almost like toys or placeholder ideas for wild, antic adventures. They're telling you the kind of thing that they think would be cool to see in a cartoon. Whereas, in contrast, a good versus evil story is a little bit more of the struggle of good against evil. So a good guys, bad guys story is more like Sonic zips in, he pulls down Robotnik's pants, he laughs because Robotnik has little hearts on his underwear, and he zips off, right? Robotnik is a object of ridicule, literally, in the Adventures of the Sonic the Hedgehog cartoon. He's there to be laughed at, and I think the designers of that show very deliberately did that. There are even like show notes where they say Robotnik's not meant to be taken seriously. He's meant to be an object of ridicule. And I think the YouTube poopers and the meme culture really latch onto that version of Robotnik because it's objectively hilarious. They're mining the humor out of that to make sort of contemporary memes. In contrast, Saturday AM, the other Sonic cartoon, had more of a good versus evil or a legitimate war for survival vibe to it, where Robotnik literally wanted to kill all of these animals. And even in like very early episodes, they would establish that the good guys don't always win. I think the very first episode, they go behind enemy lines, they think they did great, and they look behind them, and they realize that one of their members is missing, and he's been roboticized. And so the theme of that then is the good guys don't always win. There are casualties of war, and Robotnik, who's not just a silly goofball that they can laugh at, hurts them in ways that they feel. Like frequently in that show, they're mourning over how they miss their parents, or they're mourning over the loss of their home and basically their entire lives before Robotnik hurts them, right? So what's neat about that is I think Sad AM found this perfect balance where there still was an element of they would beat, it's a cartoon, so they've got to beat Robotnik and foil his evil plot in 30 minutes, and the good guys win. And also saying something kind of mature about the nature of evil. Like it's not fun that people are evil. It actually has real consequences in people's lives, and you actually have to like struggle and sacrifice against evil. But they kind of like dumbed it down to the level where like a 4-year-old could get it. If Star Wars dumbed down the hero's journey for 8-year-olds, what I love about Sad AM is it kind of dumbs it down even further to like a 3-year-old level, and that's not a backhanded compliment. That is like a really it's like I'm seriously impressed by how well Sad AM was able to simplify such a really like a mature and dark idea it in such a way that it didn't make Sonic dark and edgy. It still had that really wholesome element of heroism and fun, but it was serious about saying war itself isn't a barrel of laughs. So the Sonic Super Special Sonic Kids, it focuses on this era for these characters. So because this is my favorite era for these characters, just like all the stories really work for me. Like Robotnik gets up to some dirty doings, the team bands together and puts their heads together and finds some creative way to undo his dirty plot. I marked this because, like all the other issues, there's like this variety too, where sometimes they'll have the more clean Saturday AM inspired style. Sometimes they'll have the more weird, I call it like Italian anime style, where it's got some of the conventions of big faces. But I think like the Italian, like an experimental Italian artist, it's almost like they're more interested in exaggerating things to like cartoony, ridiculous limits. So I don't know, like I love Italian comics. I love the Italian Disney Duck comics. So it is kind of weird and wonky, but still has its own kind of cool, stylized, unique look. Okay, I marked this one because this is in addition to some of like the silly little fun Saturday morning adventures, they also kind of like take the time to always have a few character pieces where it's like some tragedy or some issue some character has that's like an ongoing problem for them. So one of the things I like about Princess Sally is if Sonic is a little boy viewpoint character, Princess Sally's a great little girl viewpoint character for this universe, and she's a perfect foil to Sonic. Sonic's incredibly hot dog-ish, very self-confident, but very much a Chad. Princess Sally is just a very sensible girl. She has no superpower at all, and she's worked hard all her life basically to prepare herself for this war with Robotnik. So she's got a lot of burden, like the burden of responsibility. Heavy is the head that bears the crown. And even though she's kind of like a tough girl and like doesn't give Sonic guff, it's not the context of being like a witch with a capital B. She actually is a leader in the sense that she earns respect by being competent at her job. She doesn't assert her authority just by kicking the boys around all the time. So this kind of fleshes her out by showing that when she was a child, her father, who she hasn't seen in years and misses, used to take her to like the floating island as part of his diplomatic missions. And she meets Knuckles there. So this is a smart idea because Knuckles wasn't in the cartoon. So like, how are they going to fit him into the cast? So they give him sort of a childhood connection to Sally. The two of them fight and they damage one of the trees on the island, which are sacred. And clearly Sally is deeply guilty about this. Like she was being stupid. She was goofing around and fighting with the guy, and she caused damage. And this is something that she just has ongoing guilt about. So they agree that they're not going to tell anyone about how they met because of that. She doesn't want to get Knuckles in more trouble than he's already in. And that's where it leaves it off. So what's clever about this is this explains how Sally knew Knuckles, yet she's not told anybody about it. And it kind of fits with Princess Sally, I'd say almost having like this very serious, very repressed personality where because she's so serious about doing what's right and living up to her expectations, she has a tendency to like just carry this burden and not share it with anyone. Hopping ahead, there are a few, I think all of these stories are written by Ken Penders, and the thing about Ken Penders' stories is, even though I haven't read the Archie comics before, I know that Ken Penders was involved with some lawsuit with Archie comics, so it's kind of like, oh no, I know where this is going. So it's kind of made it harder for me to get into this in retrospect, because I know it's basically going to end with Archie comics just ending on a cliffhanger, and who knows what Ken Penders had planned. One of the sad things is I actually think Ken Penders really does have a good sense for writing short character stories. Maybe his flaw is he just wants to add too much goofy new alien stuff to the Sonic universe. But he's really at his best when he's just writing these short little character vignettes. He has a short little character vignette for Sally where she talks about how, because of all her burden of responsibility, she never really felt like she had a chance to choose this life for herself. It was like it was chosen for her. And so it's just a short little story where she gets a chance to make one decision about whether she's going to inherit this magical power or not. And she decides she's not going to inherit this magical power because she doesn't want to know what the future is, right? So it's just like a short, sweet little character moment that gets at something I think is true about Sally, which is that she's kind of a burden-oriented person. She's very conscientious. Then it's like, there'll be like a little side story where one of the secondary characters goes on a little spy mission. I feel like Hershey and what's his name? Geoffrey the skunk. They feel a little Looney Tunes, like, oh, a skunk and a black cat. Okay. Someone on Twitter pointed out that Ken Penders got mad because they put a skunk character in the new IDW comics, and he thought they were ripping him off. I don't mind. I don't mind having secondary characters in the Sonic universe and giving them like their own little moment in the sun, but not too much stood out about them. This was another neat little story, kind of fleshing out Luna, one of the secondary characters. This is my favorite. All right. Excuse me. Cough Squad. All right. So this is just like a really short story about Bunny Rebot, where Robotnik is a guy who wants to turn cute little animals into robots, and Bunny was turned half into a robot. He didn't complete the transformation. So it's just a very short little story where she starts becoming sick because her parts, it's like the robot parts of her body are starting to reject the organic parts of her body. And she's given a choice. We can either replace your parts to keep you alive, or we can try to de-roboticize you. But you've been a robot so long, the odds are overwhelmingly that we're going to kill you. And one thing to note subtextually is Bunny probably can't have children if she stays a robot, right? So this is actually like a real human problem. Like, do you take a surgery that maybe saves your life but takes away the opportunity to have children from you? And it's like she sort of mourns the difficulty of this decision. She talks to Antoine, who I think is her husband at this point, and he just gives her some support and trusts her to make the right decision. She eventually decides that she's going to take the route that's more likely to keep her alive, right? So she elects to stay a robot forever. So she's making a sacrifice, but because she has kind of like the freedom to make that decision, it's sort of like she finds joy now in her new life as kind of like this new person. It's a really deep idea, and one of the things I like about it is it almost could have gone the other way, and it would have been completely justifiable to risk your life to try to restore your body to what it was before. It could have even ended with like Bonnie dying as the sad end to it. But in this case, it's just like a complete little character vignette. And again, it's acknowledging that Robotnik's evil. It actually does have like this ongoing effect on these characters. There are consequences for it. So if that's Ken Penders at his absolute best, this is, I think, Julie Sue in Shadows this is Ken Penders showing like tendencies, I think, that were doomed to failure. So observation number one is his OC, Julie Sue, is basically like, what if there was a girl echidna like Knuckles, but she was pink like Amy Rose? Okay, that's all right. But then like her mom is literally named like Mary Sue, and I guess there's like this whole echidna cult that they had where they did some like techno organic stuff on the echidnas. And look at the word content. So you're a little kid reading this, blah 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 blah. Come on, good grief! You got Ken Penders. You had to write this stuff for 6-year-olds, right? It's starting to feel like Brian Michael Bendis style complex DC multi-universe stuff. So the thing is, when there's a new character, I kind of want to like the new character. Julie Sue didn't do anything like too annoying or obnoxious, so that was pretty good. But I guess also knowing that the Ken Penders lawsuit is coming up in Sonic's history had a tendency to spoil the adventures of Julie Sue and Mary Sue. This is really nice. This art by Tracy Yardley, who I think is still doing the Sonic comics for IDW. So when you jump into Archie Sonic comics, there's going to be like this weird what? The echidnas are aliens and they all have like cyber parts? So, okay. But anyway, just if you look past that, the simple little cartoon adventures with the freedom fighters, I think, are all really excellent and hold up quite nicely still. Oh yeah, and there's also some like really cool stuff about the process of a cover production. So that was neat. So book 5 is my favorite. If you have like a kid who's into Sonic, I think they just totally get into it, and it, you know, with the exception of a couple stories, there's nothing that's going to be too complicated or over their heads. And this is my favorite of the series so far. I'm enjoying the Archie comics enough. I think I do want to like get the unabridged editions of them and just read through them. I'd kind of like to do a list of the Archie comics you should actually, which are the ones you should actually read if you like the cartoon, and which are the ones where it's like, oh, good grief, how many universes are there? It seems like it'd be a little bit of a weird, mystical, strange adventure through the weirdness of Archie Sonic comics. All right, that's it. I'm number one Marmaduke fan. Love you guys. Catch you later.